The Firebee target drones built by Ryan Aeronautical Company have served the United States Army in literally more ways than one, and their unmatched potential forged a decades-long career in all three services of the military. Able to reinvent itself over and over, the versatile and practical Firebee evolved into a multitude of models, each specialized in terrestrial, maritime, or high-altitude combat. And even though it is one of the earliest jet-powered drones, it exceeded expectations beyond the turn of the millennium, and half a century later, it's still one of the most widely used target drones in history. What makes these American target drones so special stems from their inception and design, which have stood the test of time and remain a triumphant feat of communication and execution, serving as a stalwart example of leadership. Origins. In 1946, the United States Army Air Force issued a request for a jet-powered gunnery target with both air and ground launch capabilities. The project had such a tangible potential that no less than 31 companies responded. However, all proposals were turned down during the first request for quotation. The perfect prototype had not yet been conceived. Rebids were opened in January of 1948, and out of the 18 top American aircraft manufacturers that responded, 14 designs were submitted. By August of that year, the Ryan Aeronautical Company emerged as the winner, earning a contract for a subsonic, jet-propelled target drone, eventually known as the Ryan Firebee. Early in its development, the prototype's launching aircraft and vehicles for parachute recovery tests included various models. Its first unpowered launching was from a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, while a Boeing B-29 Super Fortress performed as a recovery vehicle for a short period. But as the Navy also experimented with the Firebee, they used their JD-1 version of the Douglas B-26 Invader with a single target on one wing and water ballast on the other. The medium bomber eventually became a standard launch vehicle for the drone, and the Air Force tested its final configuration with 2 targets under the wings at Holloman Air Force Base. Taking to the skies. The prototype XQ-2 Firebee featured swept flight surfaces and a circular nose inlet. The first model showcased distinctive arrowhead end plates on the tailplane, and the drone flew for the first time in early 1951. The following year, representatives for the Air Force, Navy, and Army convened at the Development Center at Holloman, New Mexico, as participants in the United States Research and Development Board panel for target drones. All the branches were to witness the formal demonstration of the Firebee. At least 32 examples were built for testing and evaluation, and by December, Ryan was awarded a contract for 35 targets under the Army designation XM-21. As for ground launch experiments, they started with a 4,000-foot rail to determine the effect of acceleration during and after launching. Tests were captive, using a trolley to hold the drone as it was propelled along the rails, powered not only by an engine but also with a rocket. For deceleration, a scoop attached to the trolley was dragged through reservoirs filled with water. The next phase consisted of a catapult launcher with 99 feet rails, ejecting the drone with a powder charge from a standard 6-inch naval gun. But the special powder with the desired burning characteristics was barely available. Therefore, the developers adopted a standard guided takeoff launcher, which employed an 11,000-pound rocket-assisted takeoff bottle for the initial boost. One particularly spectacular flight came from one of the first zero-length attempts to fire the drone from a standard road vehicle. The Firebee commenced a slow roll not long after takeoff, as the radar booster continued to burn. Then, as soon as the prototype inverted its position, the rocket detached and the drone completed its roll, reassuming level flight. Unfortunately, the feat was not a complete success due to confusion at the control station, and the drone ended up crashing to the ground almost immediately after. Still, this proved only a minor setback, and the Army eventually conducted several other successful trials in short 8-foot rails, with many other users adopting the technique in the future. A hive of activity. Following several early successful trials, the drone finally went into production under the designation Q-2A. A Continental J69T19B turbojet engine powered this variant, which provided 1,060 pounds of thrust. The Air Force would later take up another model in small quantities, the Q-2B, but it was equipped with a more powerful engine capable of enhanced high-altitude performance. Meanwhile, the Navy acquired the KDA-1 variant, which was similar to the Q-2A in appearance, but differed mainly in the power plant, featuring a Fairchild J44R20B turbojet that provided 1,000 pounds of static thrust. What's more, the special-purpose turbojet possessed a diagonal flow compressor and annular combustion chamber with 12 burners, as well as a single-stage turbine. The metal monocoque aircraft also had a command guidance system, which controlled the drone through conventional ailerons, elevators, and rudder. Electronic pods were mounted on the wingtips for target applications and transmitted a special radar signal to an oncoming missile. A higher frequency reflection then modified the transmission from the drone and sent it to a ground station where it was recorded. In addition, Firebees were also provided with S-band beacons to respond to ground control radar and L-band beacons to provide a ground control intercept station with a favorable position for the vectoring of fighter aircraft. Cameras embedded in the airframe would then photograph incoming missiles. Visually, the KDA-1 could be distinguished from its sister due to its inlet center body, and they also had different minor internal details. All the Army's Firebees were ground-launched. Many improved variants eventually sprung from the Navy's version. The KDA-2 and KDA-3 series, however, were not built in quantity. It was the KDA-4 that became the main production version for the type. All the variants differed from the original version, having successfully enhanced J-44 engines and other minor changes, making them challenging to identify merely from their looks. Notably, the Royal Canadian Air Force was also interested in the Firebee and purchased 30 KDA-4s to be explicitly flown by two converted Avro Lancasters Mark 10 DC drone carriers in the late 1950s and early 1960s. However, they were to be tested for the Avro Canada CF-100 and CF-105 Aero, but when the program was cancelled, the drone initiative also came to its end. Ultimately, there was no longer any need for the Sparrow 2 missile, which would have armed the beloved Canadian aircraft. After the Firebee's success, Ryan was tasked with creating a second generation. Originally named Q2C, Model 124 flew for the first time in late 1958 and went into production at the beginning of the following decade. In 1963, the version was redesignated BQM-34, and it featured the profile recognized today, with a bigger airframe, longer wings, and its distinctive chin inlet under its pointed nose. Moreover, it was powered by a Continental J69 T29A turbojet of 17,000 pounds of thrust. In a confusing turn of events, the KDA-1 and KDA-4 were renamed AQM-34B and AQM-34C, designations already in use with the Navy. But not long after, the Sea Service adopted the BQM-34A as well. As for the Army, it obtained a ground-launched variant called MQM-34D, which had even longer wings and a heavier jet-assisted takeoff booster. By 1965, another contract was awarded for a supersonic version, becoming the Firebee 2. However, later variants evolved beyond the drone role to become multi-purpose UAVs to be deployed in battlefields, maritime reconnaissance, and even attack missions. 1,280 Firebees were built from the first generation alone, but that amount eventually rose to 7,000. Service life. Firebee's primary mission was to simulate tactical threats in defense readiness training, air-to-air combat training, and the development of weapons systems. Its top speed reached Mach 0.97 from 10 feet above sea level to 60,000 feet. In addition, the drone could perform 7G turns and maintain airspeeds in realistic conditions. The Q2 Firebee became a standard target for Project William Tell and served for training North American air defense interceptor crews. In a typical 10-day program, between 80 and 120 drones were launched and performed as interception targets at no less than 14,000 feet and up to 50,000 feet, while maintaining a speed of Mach 0.97 to 0.87. The Canada Aviation and Space Museum would later describe the launch, quote, "The drone carrier aircraft took off and climbed to its launching height on a rectangular course. While carried by the aircraft, the Firebee was connected to it by an umbilical cord, through which an onboard crew member carried out full control checks during the climb. When these were completed, the link was disconnected, and all subsequent control was carried out by a drone controller from a command post on the ground. As the drone carrier came up to the launching point, it was joined by a chase plane, which observed and reported on the drone's maneuvers. If the drone got out of control, the chase plane had to shoot it down. However, that was unlikely, given the drone's automatic recovery parachute would deploy and safely return it to the ground. Likewise, if the drone ran out of fuel, it would be recovered by a two-stage parachute. Because of the Firebee's high altitude, it was not usually possible to keep it in sight, and thus mission progress was plotted on a board. Its high-thrust engine, advanced microprocessor flight control system, rugged airframe, and wide assortment of mission augmentation systems secured the Firebee's place as the premier aerial target system in the 1960s, and it has even remained in use with 2 American military services for over 5 decades. Its ability to be readily modified to meet special tactical UAV mission needs definitely contributed to its prolonged career. And beyond its performance, the Firebee's ability to survive hits and near misses and return to fly another day put it among the most widely used target drones ever built. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to all of our Dark Documentaries channels and hit the bell icon to be notified of our newest content. Stay tuned.